Saadia was innocent, the Alik'r were all liars, and I've got the proof right here. Anyone that's played Skyrim for 2 minutes should be familiar with the quest In My Time of Need. It's a short quest line. It focuses around a unique set of NPCs from the region of Hammerfell. The quest is notorious for being open-ended, wherein, at the climax of the plot, you have to make an uninformed decision to decide whether or not persecution of a specific fugitive is justified. I'm here to tell you it's not justified. All the evidence is there in Skyrim, and if you decided to help out the Alik'r, you are an accessory to murder. The quest begins with you entering Whiterun. You come across a couple of red guards, being told, "You're not allowed in here, get the heck out," by some guards. The red guards will ask if you've seen a woman in town that hails from the same region that they do. If you can find this particular woman, they'll pay you good coin for her location.
A woman, a foreigner in these lands. Redguard, like us. She is likely not using her true name. We will pay for any information regarding her location.
After a little bit of searching, you discover Saadia at the local inn. Saadia reveals that she's actually a Hammerfell noble, and she traveled to Skyrim to escape persecution from the Aldmeri Dominion. The men at the gate, mercenary assassins, here to bring her back to Hammerfell for her execution for speaking against the Dominion. Saadia requests that you kill Kematu, the leader of the Alik'r, and by doing so, the rest of his gang should disperse. After locating his hideout, you meet Kematu, who instead of trying to kill you, just wants to talk. He suggests that his group of mercenaries are not assassins. They were hired by the Houses of Teneth to return Saadia to Hammerfell for treason. She sold the region out to the Aldmeri Dominion. Help him bring justice to Hammerfell, and you will be rewarded. Seems impossible to know who's telling the truth, right? Well, no. When attempting to find the location of Kematu's hideout, you can ask Saadia any suggestions on how to find them, to which she will respond,
"I heard one of them was just arrested trying to sneak into the city. If he's locked up in the jail, perhaps you can get it out of him. Please, I know I'm asking you to do something difficult, maybe even dangerous. I just don't know who else I can trust."
You head to Dragon's Reach Dungeon, where you find the Alik'r prisoner. Here is where we get the first piece of damning evidence towards Saadia's innocence. Listen to what he lets slip when discussing his leader, Kematu.
You have a death wish then? If you know that name, you must know to meet him would be to meet your end.
This immediately implies this faction is very ruthless for a group of mercenaries. A leader who is so dangerous that his own crew is saying this about him? It's quite peculiar. Mercenary work in Tamriel isn't normally considered an unethical job. Look at the companions, for example. They're mercenaries, but they're revered for their prowess and bravery. Their leader, Kodlak Whitemane, is only talked about with respect by each member of the faction. The Alik'r, in contrast, immediately jump to violence. Another piece of evidence occurs during a random encounter. Some Alik'r warriors claiming to be searching for Saadia can be found harassing random Redguard women. Remember, these warriors know that Saadia is in Whiterun. They're so confident in this fact that they send the player to search for her on their behalf. They even reward the Dragonborn a portion of their bounty if you decide to help them. This means this whole exercise of harassing Redguard women is completely unnecessary. These Alik'r warriors are either just planning to harass people for fun, or actually kidnap these women for something much more disturbing. When you first meet the Alik'r, the Whiterun guards say the following dialogue towards them.
"We're causing no trouble. All we ask is to look for her."
"I don't care what you're doing. After what happened, you're lucky I don't toss you in jail. Now get lost."
"We will be back."
You never directly find out what the crime the guards are referring to is, but considering the Alik'r prisoner was arrested for breaking an entry, we know it has to be a less severe crime. Trespassing and lockpicking are both crimes that only accrue a 5 septim bounty. An activity like brawling, for example, isn't classified as a crime at all in Skyrim. It's more than possible that when attempting to search for Saadia, these warriors started a fistfight, and that is what these guards are referring to. This is why this guard is unable to throw them into the dungeon. They technically didn't break the law. The Alik'r immediately begin committing crimes when they get to Skyrim. Do these seem like the type of people you should hire to collect a very important and notorious political figure? Keeping in mind, if the Alik'r are to be believed, and they really want to bring Saadia back to Hammerfell to face her crimes against the region, it's more than likely that this is being done as a political statement by the Houses of Tanith. Remember, they supposedly want her back for selling the city out to the Aldmeri Dominion. The Houses of Tanith have no physical gain from getting Saadia back. As far as everyone in the quest is concerned, Saadia didn't bring any riches, it's never mentioned that she had any special information about the Thalmor, and the occupation of Hammerfell from the Dominion ended years ago. The Houses of Tanith clearly just want to make an example of Saadia, to show what happens to the traitors and criminals in Hammerfell. But if this were true, why risk the essence of your message by sending a group of ruthless, aggressive mercenaries to collect this traitor? If anyone found out that these were the people you hired to collect Saadia, it would completely undermine and devalue her capture. Hiring criminals to capture a criminal doesn't make sense. As a result, it makes it very difficult to believe that these mercenaries would be the go-to choice for this type of task. A mercenary group that were a little less aggressive and murdery would make a significantly better choice as government representatives for cross-country adventures. It would make sense, however, to choose the Alik'r if you were an organization that didn't mind if you slaughtered and abused anyone that gets in your way. The reason why this quest is so often discussed is because there isn't really a lot of information to go off. For a mercenary group, we really don't know that much about the Alik'r. They come from Hammerfell, they're mercenaries, their leader's name is Kematu, and that's about it. This is the second reason why the Alik'r's side of the story doesn't fit together. Mercenary groups in Tamriel are like a group of warriors looking for their next adventure. The popular groups become so well known that they're respected throughout the lands. The companions are also a perfect example for this concept as well. It doesn't matter which hold you're in, our guard can always turn to you and say,
"You've been seen in the company of the companions. That's an honorable path you're on, friend."
The Alik'r are just referred to by everyone as mercenaries from Hammerfell. There's no form of respect, or really even acknowledgement of their faction. In contrast to the companions, these guys are quite unheard of. Even Saphir, a Redguard woman, when asked if she knows anything about the Alik'r, specifically says,
"The who? I'm sorry, I have no idea what you're talking about."
This right here is undeniable evidence for the Alik'r being an unknown, undetermined group. This was put in the game intentionally by the developers, and it clearly outlines that even some of the natives of Hammerfell are unaware of who these Alik'r warriors are. Other than this quest, there's no specific mention from anyone about who they are, what they do, and who they serve. No books, no dialogue, nothing. Let's go back to that prisoner again for a moment. In the following line of dialogue, he says,
I have dishonored my brothers by being captured, and so they have left me here. My life with the Alik'r is over now, but I have no wish to die in this God's forsaken land. If I can be released from prison, I may start over.
Why would a gang of mercenaries feel shame from one of their members being caught trying to break into somewhere? I would understand if the shame came from one of their members committing a crime, or even shame for one of their members sneaking around. But the prisoner specifically says he dishonored his group by being captured. Not only that, he has dishonored them so much that he has to start an entire new life. These are all signs that this mercenary group are not only proud of their stealth abilities, but it's something that's required to be a member. Combined with their anonymity, this is starting to sound less and less like a mercenary group and more like a shadow organization. Now would be a good time to also mention the Alik'r all refer to each other as brothers.
Brother, I think she's telling the truth.
It's an irregular form of speech from the Redguards in Skyrim. It's almost as if they're in a brotherhood of some kind. If only we could think of another faction that has a brotherhood in Skyrim. The Dark Brotherhood is one of the only times in Skyrim we get a non-Nord NPC talking this way. The parallels between these two organizations don't end here either. The only other NPC that wears anything remotely similar to the garb seen worn by the Alik'r warriors is Nazir, a Dark Brotherhood assassin with an unknown history who hails from Hammerfell. One of his introductory lines says,
"I am a child of Hammerfell, born of the sands of the mighty Alik'r. In that great desert, blood is a shade of crimson I can scarce describe."
Clearly, he's referring to the Alik'r Desert. Or maybe not. All of this points to an idea that this mercenary group's activity falls closer to the Dark Brotherhood or Morag Tong rather than the Companions. This furthers the idea that there is no way the Hammerfell government hired the Alik'r. Assassins aren't typically the type to take prisoners, so why would you hire them for this type of work? The short answer? You wouldn't. A group of assassins, however, is much more likely to be under the employ of the Thalmor. Due to disagreeing with the guidelines of the White Gold Concordat, Hammerfell's armed forces did not let up against the opposing Aldmeri Dominion after the Great War. 5 years of battle and an eventual standstill led to the signing of the Second Struss Mackay Treaty. This meant that the Aldmeri Dominion would withdraw from Hammerfell entirely. The region that was under the most tension was the southern part of Hammerfell, where the Houses of Tanith reside. This is verified in the book The Great War. It's entirely plausible that during this time the region was temporarily captured, and this is when Saadia spoke out against the Dominion. We know for a fact that the Aldmeri Dominion does indeed capture and torture people for doing this kind of thing. We see exact parallels of this unfold in Skyrim's Civil War questline. If you choose to side with the Empire in the Civil War, after the Siege of Whiterun, Heimskr is thrown into Dragon's Reach dungeon. In addition, in the quest Missing in Action, you discover the Dominion has a literal torture chamber at Northwatch Keep. I believe Northwatch is where the Alik'r take Saadia if you choose to side with them. Based on all the previous information, it would be fair to assume that the Aldmeri Dominion wants a confession out of her before they kill her, as they did from Thorold in Missing from Action. This is why you're able to find Saadia's funerary urn in Whiterun's Hall of the Dead, because she never made it out of Skyrim. We know that the concept of these two quests were being finalized at the same time. In the game's files, the quest In My Time of Need has a quest ID of MS-08, and Missing in Action has MS-09. These two quests happen to parallel perfectly with what Saadia is suggesting will happen to her if she gets caught by the Alik'r. Also, may I just point out that the Alik'r's hideout is literally called Swindler's Den? That's like having a big sign outside of your house saying Gaslighter's Home. They didn't even have to stay there. They were allowed into Rorikstead. So there it is. The Alik'r are aggressive assassins, comparable to the Dark Brotherhood. The Thalmor planned to torture and kill Saadia at Northwatch Keep, and the Aldmeri Dominion was out to get her. And I need to play less Skyrim. But if you still don't believe me, let me know why in the comments below. Thank you so much for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to leave a like, subscribe, and maybe take a look at one of these ones next.